And welcome back. My final guest is Clarkstown Councilman Patrick Carroll. Welcome, Pat.
Good morning. Good afternoon, George. Thanks for having me.
So delighted to have you here. You're new to the town council, and I've been very happy to be working with you these past 6 months, and looking forward to continuing to work together over the next number of years. I have an opportunity to get to know you a little bit, but I'd like the opportunity for our viewers to get to know you a little bit, and maybe you could talk a little bit about your background, where you were born and where you were raised.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I live in Bardonia with my wife, Natalie, who's a Nanuet, born and raised. A little bit of a time she spent in Rhode Island, getting to know me, I guess. But I have 3 daughters. My oldest is 3. She goes to Busy Bee preschool in Germans. And then I have 2 one-year-old twins who just turned 1 this past week, so we celebrated their birthday, and boy, it's been a long year. So we moved to the house we have now in Bardonia in 2015. We had been renting in Congers, and we finally were fortunate enough to be able to afford a home, and we bought right in a great neighborhood in the middle of Bardonia. But I was born and raised in Rhode Island. I went to college in Connecticut at Wesleyan University, went on to law school at Northeastern in Boston, and after practicing law for a few years, I actually met my wife through another Nanuetter, my friend Kevin Doyle, at his wedding. So I met my wife, and we started dating. We did a long-distance thing for a while, and then she moved to Rhode Island for a bit. We were married in Rhode Island in 2012, and it was always a known thing that once we had children and started a family, she wanted to return to Clarkstown. So we moved back to Clarkstown, and we're really fortunate to have a great neighborhood with great neighbors and friends around us.
Right. And this is not your first elective office as well, so maybe you could speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, but it seems like government service is a bit in my bloodline, if you will. My mom is a current, actually, school committee member in the town and school district where I graduated from high school and whatnot. But she was a member of the town board in my town where I grew up, Gloucester, Rhode Island, for a while, I think at least 6 years, and then she ran for state assembly and won a seat there for 4 to 6 years. So I've always been involved in the governmental level. I saw that at a young age, and when I was still in law school, I decided to run for town board in my hometown, where I was still living, even though I was going to Boston for law school. So I ran, and I served 4 years, non-consecutive, 2, and then a break, and then 2 more. So I served up there. It was a smaller scale, a lot of the same issues we have here in Clarkstown.
Right. So it's interesting because with the changes in the town of Clarkstown with the ward system, which we can speak about a little bit. It's really brings, I think, a much more focused, and I'm not afraid to kind of offer this. In my time on the town council, not every council member, put as much time in as I think this current crop of council people do. Both you and the other 3 members of the town board really put a lot of time in. And I think it's a result of, I think, the ward system, because with the ward system, while you're a council person for the entire town, you're really elected and you're kind of focused on 1/4 of the town where you're the direct representative. So if anybody has an issue from that part of the town, whether they can reach out to the supervisor's office or anybody else, really the way in which it's kind of evolved is, you're the ward council person for that area, but you have overall responsibility for the entire town. And that's new. I mean, this is really the first time that the town of Clarkstown in all of our history now has the ward system in place. And I think it's got its advantages. I think there are some disadvantages too, but I think overall it's brought a crop of council people that are very, very focused, such as yourself, that are really kind of putting a lot of time in and a lot of effort representing the people of Clarkstown. So what's it been like your first 6 months?
The first 6 months have been very full. Clarkstown has a lot of moving parts. You're a resident here and you see some of the services, but there's no way, because there are such a wide range of services provided to young, to old, to young families, to people who've been there for generations, that it's hard to grasp it from the outside. Once you're on the inside, you see all the moving parts and realize how many things are going on, how many issues, and how many great things the town of Clarkstown does for the people. So it's been very educational. The pace of town government as a council representative is most likely what I expected, but I tell my wife there's something I could go to every night. I can't because we have 3 small children, but I could every night. But I make the town meetings and make sure I stay abreast of all the issues that we have on both the local, in my neighborhood issues and the town-wide.
Right. It's been interesting actually just getting to know you a little bit and seeing you and your wife at a few events. I mean, 3 children under the age of 3. How do you cope with that? I mean, that's.
Well, I mean, at first when we decided to run back last year, at that time we had 3 under 3. Now 1 is going to be 4, but it's a balancing act. My wife is a very patient woman. We have a lot of help from our in-laws and our friends and the family for nights that we have meetings and late obligations. But part of the reason I got involved was because of my children, and I see the future that they have here in Clarkstown and want to be part of shaping the Clarkstown for them and for obviously our neighbors, our friends, and the town as a whole.
Right. And you're an attorney, so maybe you could just speak a little bit about your career as an attorney.
So I have a bit of a diverse career, and actually, George, I was talking to you about it on the way down to this show today. I actually, when I first moved to New York from Rhode Island, I had been working in the prison system in Rhode Island as legal counsel to the prison system, and I actually did a brief period of time, we won't call it a stint, but a brief period of time working for the prison system in New York, and now I'm currently a hearing officer for the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles, or what we like to call ourselves administrative law judge, in name only there. But I have a varied career. I've practiced for about 10 years, both in public, private domains, and I have a good grasp of, I think it gives me a good perspective on the town board.
Right. And as you look at some of the issues that you're working on here in Clarkstown, I know that you're the liaison to the Parks and Recreation Commission. One of the things that we've been talking about is just all the things that we're doing in the Parks and Recreation Department. It's really, it's an enormous amount of work that's taking place, just capital improvements to really get our infrastructure up to what it needs to be. I'm hopeful that, we're at a position now where there's going to be a lot less of that, going forward, because we're really investing millions of dollars over the past year in the Parks and Recreation Department. Jermons itself, the facelift on Jermons over the last couple of years was in excess of $4 million. The Lake Nanuet's just over $1 million with the new bathhouse and some of the upgrades over there. And then, of course, Street School, it was another $4 million project. So we're really looking at an awful lot of money that we've invested in our Parks and Recreation Department to maintain our capital infrastructure. What are some of the things that you've been working on through the Parks and Recreation Department, or just as a councilman in general, that you'd like to folks to know about?
Well, first and foremost, the Jermons and the Lake Nanuet renovations. I think everyone's going to be very impressed by them come opening, which is a week from today's taping, and by the time this show is hopefully have been opened and running successfully for a couple of weeks now. But aside from those recreation facilities, I think one of the things we need to work on, and we are working on in Clarkstown, is to make sure the entirety of Clarkstown gets the services and access to the services that we offer. We offer so many good things with it, whether it be the programs, the day camps, the senior activities. We want to make sure everyone who has the opportunity can get the services to those great things we have.
Mm-hmm. And let's just talk a little bit about, you had mentioned your mom, public service. So I would assume that's really what kind of inspired you to get involved with public service?
Yes, both. She did with her service to her town, and like I said, she's still a member of the school committee. I think it's just she's an attorney as well, so she knows that law, and she practiced exclusively school law, so she's a good addition to those boards. But my brothers also are service members. I wouldn't liken my government service to military service, but I also mentioned to George before that, George to you before, my older brother is an '01 West Point grad. He did 11 or 12 years of active duty, was deployed too many times, and finally is back in the National Guard after a hiatus for grad school, and he's serving in Kuwait right now in a leadership position. He's a colonel. My younger brother is an ROTC Boston University grad, my younger brother Kevin. He got out as a captain and went back into the reserve. So they're at the very least, my younger brother will be a lifer. I gather my older brother, at this point, it seems like he's a lifer. But everyone in my family is kind of dedicated to serve in their own way. Here, for me, I was fortunate enough to be elected to the Clarkstown Town Board, and this is my service now, and I'm really appreciative of the people who instilled their trust in me. So hopefully, I can work for everyone.
Sure, and please thank both of your brothers for their service. So I assume that your one brother, did he see combat?
One, if I don't get them mixed up, because literally they've each been deployed at least 3 times. One seemed exclusively in Afghanistan. He went 2 or 3 times. He was a combat engineer, but he got moved around to different units. That was Brendan. He's actually the rank of lieutenant colonel now. And my younger brother, Kevin, it seemed that he was in Iraq more and went to Iraq at least twice. And actually, interestingly enough, he went to Haiti during the big earthquake, so he was there as well. My younger brother, Kevin, got out. He's as a lieutenant. He got out of active duty as a captain, but he was he was armor, but he always got attached to the infantry unit. So he saw his combat. They never had a tank for him, so he always walked the streets, so to speak. So luckily he came back safe and sound, but they did do their time over there. So I was very appreciative of that.
Wow, this really a family of public service. Your mom and your brothers and yourself now as well, and your second stint as well in elective office. We're pretty much running out of time, but I do want to kind of just go with one last question, if you will. So what can the residents of Clarkstown expect, going forward? And how can people get in contact with you? I know you represent Ward 4, but any resident can reach out.
The Ward 4 in Clarkstown, or our Ward 4, so to speak, it seems like one of the more diverse wards. We go from Spring Valley to West Nyack, from New City down to Bardonia into Nanuet. I put out my private cell phone number for people if they call the town hall and they can't reach me there. Paula, who's one of our assistants here in the town hall, will give you my private cell phone number. But email is always, I respond to emails, and I'm sure as you do, George, all hours of the night an email question will come in and you'll be responding to it. But my goal as a town board member is not only serve honorably and receptively and responsively, but I want people to be able to get a hold of me and bring to me any problems, whether they be small or large. So that's my goal and my ultimate, hopefully after 2 years, people will realize I've done that.
Great. So, Pat, I want to thank you for being a wonderful guest, and I want to thank you for your service here so far as a councilman. I look forward to continuing to work with you and commend you on just your efforts so far. You've really kind of rolled up your sleeves and jumped in with both feet and are ably serving the residents of Clarkstown well.
Thank you, Georgia. I appreciate your time, and this actually is my first interview like this, so I hope it went well, but I think it did, and I appreciate you asking me those questions to let me speak about myself.
Great. So stay tuned. Thanks so much.